Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this one we're talking about some of the principles of the U.S. Constitution. Should be a relatively quick video just talking about some of the founding ideas that make up our government. The first one we talked about was popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty merely means the people are the ones who have power. Popular people, a lot of people, like if you're popular, a lot of people know who you are. And sovereignty, if you're sovereign, you have power onto yourself. So popular sovereignty, the people have power in our country. The people, the citizens are the ones who give the authority to the government to pass laws, to enforce laws. And if we feel that the government is not doing a good enough job, we have the power to take that back and give it to those who can. So popular sovereignty found within we the people, first three letters of the Constitution, we are the ones who have the power according to the document. The next is flexibility. The framers of the Constitution fully realized that if this was going to work, it would probably last for a long time, and therefore the document needed to change as the country was most likely going to change. So our Constitution gives flexibility within it. Probably the most simple example, our amending process, the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, of course, first 10 changes to the Constitution. That's all they are. The Bill of Rights is just a fancy name for the first 10 amendments. So as times change, Constitution can change. We saw it with the 13th Amendment outlawing slavery. We saw that with the 19th Amendment with giving women the right to vote. So as ideas and technology change, our Constitution can change with it. Also with the Elastic Clause, which again we talked about, gives Congress the power to make laws which shall be necessary and proper. So for instance, we have an Air Force nowadays that the Congress created. Obviously the Air Force wasn't created with the original Congress because there were no airplanes yet. So as we have new technologies, we can create new departments of our government to handle those changes. So flexibility. Now federalism. Our country is not called America. Our country is called the United States of America. We are a country made up of currently 50 individual states that have pledged to work together toward a common goals and common causes. So while yes, our federal government is supreme, it says that in the Constitution, Supremacy Clause, state governments have powers too. And some powers only the federal government have, and some powers only the state governments have, and some powers they both have. So, for instance, they both have the power to collect taxes, whereas only the national government can declare war. So, unfortunately, Arizona, New Mexico, and Montana all can't go to war against Canada, or something like that. The entire country goes, no individual state can go, whereas individual states have the ability to create and maintain schools. So Mesa Public Schools is an agency of the state of Arizona. So that's called federalism. We have layers of powers, the national government, the states, the city, down to the more local level. Separation of powers. Of course, this was introduced in the Virginia Plan by James Madison, influenced by Montesquieu that we talked about. So we wanted a strong government, but also recognize the potential there if it's too strong for tyranny. So let's divide the power up. We've got the three branches. The legislative branch has a further division between the two houses. So we don't want any one person or one group to get too much power. If that happens, it usually ends poorly. So let's separate the powers. Therefore, we have a less possibility of bad things happening, and a limited government. So the president can only do certain things. The president cannot create laws. Only the legislative branch can create laws. The legislative branch cannot deem if laws are constitutional. Only the judicial branch can do that. So separation of powers, limited government, only certain branches can do certain things. And finally, we have checks and balances. So not only do we have a separation of powers within the three branches, but to further protect people's rights and further prevent against the possibility of someone abusing power, not only do they only have certain powers, but they can also check or limit the powers of the other branches. So here's some examples. In the creation of a law, Congress can create laws. If they create a law that the president does not like or does not feel is going to help the people, he can veto that law. So if he vetoes a law, then he is preventing it. But just in case there's a bad president, like if the legislative branch does create a good law, but there's only a bad president, Congress has the power to overturn that veto. Say the legislative branch creates a bad law, like they take away your freedom of speech, and the president does not veto it like he probably should have. Well, then the judicial branch, the Supreme Court, can step in and say that this law is unconstitutional, and then therefore they can eliminate it. So there's this web of different powers they have to limit each other to, again, further protect against the possibility of someone abusing power. So there are some principles of the Constitution that we will look at further in class. The questions for this video and for all further videos are going to be in the description below, so that is where you're going to check.